Hi, I'm Theresa Brendible. I'm a student at SKC here. This is my second career. I'm in the Health Promotion Practice Program. I'm from Southeast Alaska, Metlakatla, Alaska, 15 miles south of Ketchikan. I'm here today to share with you a demo how to make a crab pot or a seafood pot. And today I have some abalone that I'm going to start the menu out with. This is what the abalone looks like, the shells. And I'm going to boil them. Boiling them for an hour until they fall in the shell helps them get more tender. That way you don't have to use a meat tenderizer to tenderize them. Okay, we started the seafood pot, and in here we have yellow and red small potatoes with turkey kielbasa and fresh corn on the cob, and a half a cube of butter with fresh garlic and onions. And the two spices I used is garlic herb, just like Mrs. Dash, and then of course Old Bay. And we're going to stick this in the oven and bake it for an hour while the abalone is boiling. Okay, I made some sea asparagus dip. It's like spinach dip. It's the same recipe as spinach dip, but we took out spinach and I'm adding this sea asparagus here. And in it goes mayonnaise, sour cream, sea asparagus. I diced up water chestnuts, and this onion dip goes in it. And I'm going to mix it all together. And this is what the diced sea asparagus and the chestnuts look like. And I'm going to mix them all together. And this dip is good for mainly crackers. Some people use it for chips. And it's kind of like a little appetizer to have before you, like when you have a meal. Or like a party dip. And the water chestnuts are just to add texture. And the sea asparagus is fresh from Southeast Alaska. I picked it and blanched it and then jarred it in the half-pint jars. And the shelf life lasts really good for a long time. I don't know exactly how many years, but I had this here for a year. Sea asparagus is picked during the summertime, and it grows just above low tide, and you want to cut it to the root. And when you get it, you need to cut it right to the root, and you want to get it and harvest it before it starts blooming. See if it's ready to be cooled off and to dice up for the pot. Usually if it falls out, it's ready. I'll let it cool off. If it falls out of the shell, which it's not ready to fall out, I'm going to steam it for some more. It's like half ready to fall out. The more you boil it, the more tender it is. I think I could use more time. This is what the shell looks like. And then we clean away, of course, all of this stuff. And we don't usually get big abalone because the bigger the abalone is, the tougher it is, the meat. So this is a good size right here. And then this is what the actual abalone looks like. I'm gonna cut away all of this right here, clean it off, and then when it cools off, I'll dice it up and add it to the pot. This is what one abalone looks like. And this is the part of the muscle that's attached to the shell. And usually when it comes off easily, that's when it's ready. And this is what the shell looks like after it's boiled. Okay, I'm cleaning the shrimp. It's not like Alaska shrimp. This is frozen shrimp. But when you clean the shrimp, I already started this one. The shrimp is like this, and if you just push your thumb underneath, there's a thread like, and pull all the legs apart. And then once you get all the get to the end, to the tail part, you pull all the legs apart and then just peel it off. And I usually like to leave the tail on the shrimp when I'm making a crab pot or a seafood pot, because you get the nutrition from it, the zinc, the shell. And when you pull it off, you don't tear up the meat of the shrimp when you go down the middle of it. And then you make sure that you get all the shell off, the little eggs. And because these don't take long to cook. And then I'm going to cut up the salmon. This is partially frozen. And I'm just going to cut it in chunks, just enough to get enough pieces and bites to go in with the scallops and the shrimp. These go on last minute of the pot while the potatoes, the sausage, and the corn are cooking. And the abalone is almost done. And so I'm just cutting these up, and then these will just go on last minute and on the top of the dish. We don't stir it in, we just put all the seafood on top, because you're basically just steaming them and poaching them. All the flavors in the obey and all the spice, the garlic, butter, and onions. It's been about an hour since the abalone has been cooking, steaming, and I had water above it, and all that was in here was just water. So if the abalone just falls out of the shell really easy, we won't have to shuck them. That makes it nice and makes the meat nice and tender. This is the one I checked earlier. Here's a nice big one. And I could tell that it's tender because the prong is digging into the meat, so I think they're tender enough. So when these cool off a little bit, I will finish shucking them out of the shell, and we'll just clean them off and add them to the pot. Okay, now I'm going to take the potatoes, sausage, and corn out of the oven that's been steaming for an hour. And there's garlic, onions, and the 2 spices in here. And this is what it looks like. I don't know if you could see it. And I'm going to add, the salmon is still partially frozen, so I'm going to add the salmon on the bottom so it could be poached up more. I don't usually stir in all the different seafoods. I just kind of lay them on top and pile them in. I leave the skin on because it's easier to help. Plus that's where you get all the nutrients from. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to just start adding the rest of the, this is the diced up abalone. And then the scallops. And the shrimp. And then lastly, I'm going to add some more of the garlic herb seasoning and the Old Bay. And this is the other half of the butter that I'm just going to put on top, just to kind of melt down and add some flavor. I know butter's not that healthy, but there's enough butter. It's 1 cube of butter for all this dish. This butter is going to be absorbed into the potatoes, sausage, corn, and the seafood with the spices, onions, and garlic. There's just enough fat in there to help absorb the nutrients that you need. And in this dish is vitamin A, zinc from the seafood, and
some fiber.
And I'm going to put the lid back on and put it back in the oven. Actually, I think I'll pour a little bit more water on there just to make sure. I'm adding another cup of water. And this should take about 20 minutes. And we'll put it back in the oven to finish cooking all the seafood. That looks good to me. I'm gonna hold up the pot here. What I'm gonna do is get a ladle and lift. I think this is done.
All right.
I'm going to read off this, all the nutritional value from this. See, so first I made sea asparagus. Sea asparagus is picked when it's low tide in the summer, and we cut it from the root. And it's high in vitamin A. It keeps our immune system, skin, and eyes healthy, and it's full of fiber. It's good for blood sugar control, reduces spiking. And the seafood broil is seafood with omega-3 fatty acids. It's heart healthy, good for blood sugar control. Whole grains in the corn, fiber for blood control, and potatoes, fiber, it's good with potassium for blood pressure control. And this is made of multiple food groups, vegetables, protein, whole grains. Eating from a variety of food groups improves overall health. Cooking from home, making traditional dishes for better health. I want to talk a little bit about the different dishes that I make with shrimp. Besides just plain steaming them, we just like to eat them plain, or you could steam them and add Cajuns or whatever spices, butter, garlic. You could make seafood shrimp fettuccine, which would be shrimp, scallops, and maybe another fish, halibut or salmon. And then for abalone, a lot of people make, instead of pork chop suey, they make abalone suey. Whatever vegetables you put in your pork chop suey or chicken suey, you could use abalone. It's always good to boil the abalone before you cook it, clean it, boil it for an hour so it could be shucked out of the shell easy. What else is in there? Salmon. I do salmon in many ways, but this was just one fresh fillet that I just diced it up. It was frozen enough that I could just cube it up. One of my favorite dishes with scallops is making a kind of like a light marinara sauce with the pasta and scallops, like a red sauce. That's really good. Of course, a lot of seafood is good to be served with Caesar salad or garden vegetable salad. So I could go on and talk about more seafood dishes, but I think this is good enough just to share what's in here and different ideas to use seafood different ways. Thank you for having me.